The show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, I'm Sue, and this is Talk Cosmos, June 30th. We're now in the season of Cancer, that archetype that's just past the solstice, and a most warm, wonderful, loving time to be in many ways. And all of that will be explained, and we're glad to have you here. I'm not going to say much more because we're ready for archetypal symbols.
Synthesizing the new moon consciousness through archetypal Sabian symbols, numerology, lunar mansions, tarot, and astrology, all together illuminating a new moon vision story. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I am Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018, an evolutionary astrologer and student of vibrational astrology, a consultant, workshop facilitator, lecture speaker, writer, Dwarf Planet University graduate, charter member of Kepler Astrology Toastmaster Club, hold an AA degree and Associate of Fine Arts Music degree, and Certificate of Fine Arts in Jazz. I'm an artist, musician, mythologist, and pursue esoteric philosophies.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
And I'm Justin Crockett Elzie, an archetypal Jyotish astrologer, yoga and meditation teacher, and author. I combine both Western ancient astrology and modern psychological astrology with Eastern Vedic astrology, and I specialize in predictive, electional, and karmic astrology for individuals and couples. I also do in-depth astrological research into arcane astrological concepts, focusing on the mystical, occult side of astrology.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Well, hello, Justin and Liz. How are you both? Yeah.
Hey,
Thanks.
it's nice to be back.
Yeah, I see you're in the studio. That's exciting. Where we used to go.
Yep. And everybody looks good that where you're at too.
Yeah, we all have a plant. That's a good thing.
Oh, that's right. I do have a plant.
Yeah, I know. It looks so homey.
Yeah,
And
Liz
it's
has got
in
a
the-
lot of plants behind her there, that forest
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it does help. And I've got mine. Well, this title we have is Materialization of Spiritual. It's kind of a tongueful, but really it's pretty much the essence of our incarnations, I suppose. And shall we begin? I guess. Okay. We have Liz or Elizabeth Muschett. You can find her at lightpath.com. Justin Crockett Elzie. You can find it his name, JustinCrockettElzie.com, and his email, justin.elzie@gmail.com, and myself at Talk Cosmos or info@talkcosmos. And of course, Liz is liz@lightpath.com. And you have these slides. We are about the 14-degree, 23-minute Cancer new moon. It's happening on July 5th. It's only down in Australia that it's going to be on the 6th. But what we do is we renew our intentions. And every new moon has that energy, that consciousness that we can tune into, I guess, and try to find out how to review our lives, how to renew, how to reset them. Let's talk about the moon. Anybody want to begin?
Sure, it's emotional and intuitive, sensitive and empathic.
It's processing, nurturing, and it has a need for safety.
It does indeed. It's very much about our childhood and our family tribe. We can establish our own family tribe, which I think many of us do. And it does rule Cancer, of course. It's water. Water is that absorbs. It was the scientist Emoto who discovered through his scientific x-rays that are pictures that how you feel about water when you hold a cup shows the design. So the idea is every time you drink water, say, I love you, water. I love life. And then it comes into you. Justin, you want to make a comment?
Well,
and you
no,
can
go ahead.
write it
Justin.
on a piece of paper and stick it underneath of it, or stick it on the water bottle. But go ahead, Justin.
Well, no, I love how you're saying that, because from a scientific standpoint, they've tested water has memory. So there's a certain level of consciousness or memory in water, and so that's important. I think it's really kind of important because Cancer rules the moon, and the moon is scientifically actually affects our emotions on this planet. There's the scientific studies that it actually affects our sleep cycles, melatonin in our brains. They've done studies on animals, and then of course it affects all the fertility cycles of everything on this planet: women, men, animals, plants, and all these have been scientifically proven that the moon is affecting all of this. So I think it's really kind of important. This moon's in the sign that it rules in Cancer, and I think that's kind of important to focus on.
Absolutely. And the idea when you bring up about the emotions, one reason I really took on to astrology way back in my 20s was realizing that the sun and the moon, and mostly the moon, pulls the tides of the water, and we are the same percentage in our bodies as the planets. And people give 72, 75%, but it's about 72, that beautiful number. So that the water, our system, we move. Water is so wonderful. It circulates. Go ahead.
And so that's why I think this show is so great, is because if we can at least align ourselves with the moon cycles, at the least of all of anything in astrology, I mean, it's a really good thing to align your life with, is the moon cycles, new moons, full moons.
It is. There are a few shadows. Everything has its negative, because if it's not being fulfilled and loved, it finds its weakness, right? And because it is an emotional sign, it has with our emotions, it can be erratic, when we're not quite on gear, and feeling insecure. Safety is a major focus, and therefore it can be, quote, needy or seemingly needy to others. I don't think any of us with a strong moon think that we're being needy, but others might think so. But hey, that's support, right? And overly sensitive, because it is sensitive. And sometimes it's hard to realize that somebody else doesn't quite mean it the way it comes out. They're not so sensitive, right? That's one way to see it. Shall we go on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So numerology, it adds up to 5. And 5 has quite a dimension. It's freedom. It's breaking away from 4, those 4 little posts that either keep your chair up or keep the universe up, according to mythology, where you had 4 people holding the sky up. And change, therefore, it's always changing from that to spirit. It's a symbol of transformation. You want to go on?
Well, it's adaptable, and oftentimes with the number 5, there's lots of trips or traveling, and oftentimes it can be short trips, new opportunities, and the planet Mercury corresponds to the number 5. Justin?
No, I think you got it covered. I'm not going to say anything about the numerology.
Well, I do love that it's with Mercury, and that does add curiosity and adventurous. And again, with that shadow, addiction is an interesting one that I'll have Liz talk about. But too talkative or anxious, you're always thinking about this or thinking about that, and it can be restless. So tell about addiction for number 5 for numerology, please.
Well, it could be that you're addicted to sugar or buying too many books or anything.
But
It doesn't.
why addiction? Is that
Well,
because of the change? Yeah.
right, the change,
Okay.
and it just shows up that way, because people are anxious and there's some chaos, and so it could be that the Mercury's running overdrive, and so there's, you know, addiction on our brain works with
Well,
the
I follow.
chemistry. Mhm.
Thank you, Liz, and I get it now to understand. Addiction is when you can't synthesize other things, and so you're grasping and reaching for other things to fulfill it, which actually is interesting because it goes into the mythology, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. That attachment, what can I complete myself with? Shall we go? Okay, we'll go on. It's a seventh trump card, the Chariot, corresponds to Cancer. And it replicates a lot of this. I know you want to speak. Go ahead.
Well, the change and the travel, and there's strength and perseverance, and asking you to trust your intuition. Justin, do you want to add?
No, I think that you got it covered there. Definitely.
Yeah. And again, shadow is when you hesitate or resist the conflicts and the imbalance. That's a big thing. It's, trusting your intuition is a very strong, non-linear, intuitive thing that you work within your very self and get to know yourself about, and through experience. And if a person stops and thinks too much of the 5 and the Mercury and wants to think, but why? Show it. It's like, yeah, you're hesitating. There's going to be maybe a problem. If that says it. Yes?
Yeah.
A little bit. Okay. So these minor arcana cards we've been bringing up, and I asked Liz to flesh it out a little bit more for those people that may not use them, because it is a fascinating and very supportive element between astrology and the tarot. But it relates to the decans, which are every 10 degrees of any sign. And that's a whole beautiful traditional way of looking at one of the measuring understandings from astrology, because they each move between, the first has, I think, in that sign, the second one is the next mode element sign, mode sign. Like, for instance, it would go Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. So depending anyway, it's a whole science of itself. So there you go. I could get on and on. So here we have the minor, and Liz, speak up, and Justin, flush this out a little bit more. But
well, we start out with the 2 of Cups, which is Venus in Cancer, which is the first 10 degrees of Cancer, and it's the Lord of Love. So, there's like a communication happening here, an exchange. Like you wrote on there, romance is in the air, and it happens for about 10 days. So if you were a Cancer sun and you're born in the first 10 days, this would be a card that would associate with you along with the Chariot. Justin, you want to add anything?
No. Let's go on. We got a lot to cover.
Yeah, we do. Okay, the 3 of Cups is Mercury in Cancer, Lord of Abundance, and there's various illustrations here, but Lord of Abundance, meaning if you had that, somehow the 3 in Mercury, so it would be like the 3 of Virgo in Mercury, or it would be the 3 of, no, or in Cancer. We're talking about Cancer. You have 3 of Cancer in anything, it relates to Mercury. Is that right?
Well, the 3 of Cups would be basically from 10 degrees to 20 degrees of Cancer. And so you're Cancer, sometimes
yes, right. Okay, it's more early in the morning. I got it. But go ahead.
But how different, you might know, say 6 different Cancers, and they all act a little different. So one, maybe they have Venus in Cancer because they're born in the first 10 days of Cancer, and then somebody else you meet, they might be more communicative with the second 10 degrees of Cancer, perhaps. And, this is about celebration and abundance and enjoyment.
Okay. Yeah. I yes. Thank you very much. So in other words, if you have it in the those degrees, the second set, then it's this, not, okay. I'm taking up time. Okay. And last but not least, the Four of Cups.
The Lord of Luxury, a time for reflection, and this would be the last 10 degrees of Cancer. So, it's like you're contemplating on what's been, but then if you contemplate too much on what's been, you might miss of what opportunities lie ahead. So,
like, for instance, my Pallas Athena is in the last 10 degrees of Cancer. So there you go. Whereas my Juno's in the first 10 degrees. So I think I got it, and I hope my audience has it. And thank you very much. Justin?
Yeah, of course. So then the next thing we want to just bring into here is the lunar mansions. And the lunar mansions is a concept in astrology that relates to how we divvy up the zodiac constellation and the fixed stars in there. And there's a theme or concepts around the different fixed stars in a zodiac constellation. And this is in the Jyotish and the Vedic astrology is what we call the Nakshatras. And so knowing what lunar mansion that the moon is in at each time and what that themes are helps inform us more to how we can use the moon. So in this particular one, the moon is in the nakshatra of Punarvasu in the first pada or first section. And the deity that rules this is Aditi. Now, some of you may know that Aditi is the mother goddess. It relates to protection and abundance and wealth. The ruling planet, of course, is Jupiter, and the symbol is the bow and quiver, because part of the desire of this nakshatra lunar mansion is to go out and accomplish an objective. So that's how we see here conceptually the bow and the quiver. It moves to accomplish an objective. It strives to. And the basis above is above, so below is air and wind and moisture and rain. So that's goes back to nurturing and abundance that this nakshatra relates to.
Yeah, I thought hopefully that you would bring up nurturing, because the circulation with water, moisture, feeding.
Yep.
Well, that's beautiful. And
we've got to, this kind of goes back to when you think about Cancer. Cancer is the very creative. A lot of times we think of Leo as creative, but Cancer is very creative. It's actually the creative one. It births something, right? The Cancer is the birthing one and the nurturing one, and knows how to nurture something so that it grows. And I think that's what we're talking about here, is where you're pointing out the moisture and rain and wind, is it nurtures it so that it becomes abundant.
Yeah. And it's interesting that the bow and quiver reaches forward for a goal, but somehow I don't know if that's quite related to the idea of attachment, but perhaps not. Would you say it would be?
No.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Well, thank you so much. In astrology and mythology, there are various stories. And for Cancer, it's the crab's origin story, which also relates very strongly to Hercules, this great, strong individual way back. And he had 12 labors. There's a long, involved story about really our desires in many ways, because he goes to this Lerna lagoon. That's where and it happens to be that's where Zeus would go and meet many of his lovers. They had a spring there that had, you could go, it's quite involved, where when you go there, your consciousness could go in this direction or that direction. But essentially, at this point, Hera, who is Zeus's wife, sends a crab that lives in the lagoon to attack Hercules and stop him from killing the Hydra. And it doesn't work that way. Bites the toe. He's a huge one. One said 10 feet high. But Hercules smashes and kills it. However, the crab does go up into the constellations. And what does it mean? Because a lot of this melodrama, we got to get out of that and look at more of the spiritual meaning. It's just a code. And it embodies that art of self-preservation. It's this capacity to thrive in shifting environments. And the crab can overcome these personal obstacles but many times it represents attachments. If you grab a crab, physically grabs onto something, you have to remove that whole pincher to let it go. It's strong attachment. And the realization of the loyalty of following through and going up to the heavens, which is resilience and adaptability. So the Tarot shows that strength and focus of victory with it. And Aditi, the mother goddess, which again is that protective need to nurture. It's the crab, I think, has a lot to do with our sense of how we're because the ego will want what it wants to complete something for attachment, but really it is a matter of what attachments do we have. Like Buddha says, it can create suffering. So it's a
And I was wondering
beautiful-
if, I was wondering if I could bring this back to our title, which is materialization of the spiritual. That in order for us to materialize something, materialization of the spiritual, manifest it, we need to nurture it. We need to water it. And I think that's what's important about the whole concept of the mother goddess Aditi here, is that in order to materialize materialization of spiritual and have wealth and abundance, we need to nurture it.
This is great. And the crab is so fascinating. It lives in the tides, this constant change. It's totally adaptable. I mean, this one may have been in a lagoon, but it goes in the tide, out of the tide, and it's very resilient. So yes, that beautifully put with Aditi. The constellation is the dimmest, and there's a beehive cluster. So if you want to see, it's between these fixed stars in the sky. Castor, Pollux, the twins, and Regulus, the lion's heart. But it's not always easy. So the Sabian symbols, we do 4. It's a spiritualist, medium, Elzie Wheeler in 1925. And we have a 4-step story. We use the past degree, the present degree, the Sabian, which is the next, and the future. Where does it head to? Any comment? No?
Okay.
Oh.
So go ahead, listen, Justin.
So we're going to look at the ascendant, the midheaven, and the sun and moon degrees. So the ascendant is 22 Sagittarius, and the midheaven is 10 degrees Libra, and then the sun and moon are at 14 degrees Cancer.
And I might note that for those that like fixed stars, that 14 degrees is the fixed star of Sirius that this new moon falls on, which is actually an auspicious thing for victory. Back to some of our key words there, to victory and success and wealth.
Oh, I wish I would have added that. That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you. So the blue show that it'll be the next, actually Sabian, and then so we'll start here with the ascendant, which is 22 degrees Sag. So we're dealing with 21 to 24 Sag. And the past, just prior to what builds it, is a child and a dog wearing borrowed eyeglasses, but glasses. And it's using that imagination and makeup and anticipating the next higher stages of development. And the whole key word is learning through imitation. It's the basis of our being, actually. We all imitate. Liz?
And then the present is 22 Sag, a Chinese laundry, making use of one's special cultural background in order to survive and prosper, self-containment, and good humor.
And the Sabian symbol Sagittarius 23 degrees is a group of immigrants as they fulfill the requirements of entrance into the new country. And the keynote here is consciously accepting the ways of a new stage of experience and getting ready for opportunities that it will present. And so the key word here is transition.
That is so strong. Because the future, I'm going like learning through imitation, that's our childhood. And self-containment is that, we've got that shell in Cancer. It's really relating it that way. And then the transition going between the tides. I mean, this one spells it out. It's going boing, boing, boing to me. Anyway, the future, 24 Sag, a bluebird perched on the gate of a cottage. So the keynote is that's a reward, and it needs every effort when we are integrating social environment for those that remain true to ourselves. And isn't that the key? Boy, we're in the cardinal cross. So Libra and Aries, that spells well. So it's good fortune when we do that.
I might note, just to summarize, these will deal a lot with change and adaptability is what we've been dealing with. I've noticed, learning through imitation, and then that Chinese laundry and the immigrants going to a new country is about transition and change and adaptability. And I think when we look at this current moon and manifesting something, that we can rely on our unique special skills that we bring to the table. And that's what I've noticed with those 2 degrees, 22 and 23, that really represents, leaning into your own skill sets when you're getting new experiences or new opportunities.
That's very supportive and nurturing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Here we have the MC, and this is all for the East, for the East daylight time zone, by the way. But it's 12 degrees Libra, and the past would be 11. A professor peering over his glasses at his students, meaning problems attending the transmission of knowledge to a special cultural setup involves instruction. This?
In the present 12 Libra is miners are surfacing from the deep coal mine, the need to carry on ever deeper levels of quest for knowledge, extraction.
And then Sabian symbol 13 degrees Libra is children blowing soap bubbles, the cultural fantasies through which young minds dream of perfect fulfillment. And so in any creative or materialization, manifestation thing, we have to have imaginative play.
Oh, it's the beginning. And we'll run through the next one. I know usually we go for a break, but we'll finish these up because then we can really start off with the astrology. The future 14 Libra is in the heat of the noon hour. A man takes a siesta. That need for recuperation within the social pattern of everyday activity. Relaxation is that need for the psyche to just digest, put it all together so that we can be that strong person, as you had indicated earlier, that can lead our way. Yes? Should we go to okay, here's the recap. Lead on.
No, this is the sun and moon degree. So we're going to start with 13 Cancer. A hand with a prominent
Oh, right. Yes.
is held out for study. The power of the will is shaping character.
Okay, and the present, which is 14 degrees Cancer, along with Sirius, a very old man facing a vast dark space to the northeast. It's fulfillment and transcending and changeless wisdom. The northeast, that's where the sun comes up. Anyway, permanence and truth. Go ahead.
And then the 15 degrees Cancer, in a sumptuous dining hall, guests relax after partaking of a huge banquet. And then, of course, this is about, in any type of stage of human growth to materialize the concept of fulfillment. And here's where we get the materialization of the spiritual.
So if it's going to
the future is 16 degrees Cancer. A man studying a mandala in front of him with the help of a very ancient book. Deep concentration with problems raised by the process of personality integration. Concentration.
So all together now, the keywords from the ascendant, the MC, and the sun and moon. We want to try to tie that together, or shall we begin that with our next after the break?
Let's do it after the break.
Okay, we'll be back, folks. This is June 30th. And we'll be right back, so stay tuned. Thank you so much. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. Currently, we are in the period of Cancer. By leaving a cycle based on connecting mental communication to the external, The energy of Cancer involves emotions, which create our personal story through our emotional associations and attachments. As a cardinal water sign that is nurturing, Cancer needs to process emotions in one's own internal rhythm of cycles in order to complete an evolution.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to NewProSupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, July 7th, it's Shelter Rescue Sanctuary and anything that helps our animal friends Sunday. We'll check in with Meow Cat Rescue and Help Animals India. We'll talk to Beth and Merritt Clifton from Animals 24-7 and find out what's going on at the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
On the path to good health and well-being, Alternative Talk 1150 is the station for you.
Hi, we will come right back and just give a synopsis. We have all these key words for the ascendant. Want to begin?
Well, to me, several of them talked about being creative, so that, just goes and enforces about the tarot, the numerology, and the nakshatra, and then, materializing it and bringing it forth. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, I think for the ascendant, what stood out to me is that what I was saying before, they represent a lot about change and transition and adaptability. And I think that's the way we're having to move forward in this period of time with this new moon.
And realizing that we can be true to ourselves, to be our own anchor. Thank you. So
and then the midheaven, basically just reminding us that we need to revitalize and rest and have play whenever we're in a space where we're trying to materialize something.
Good.
And you're going to cover the new moon just for a second there. The summarizing of the new moon. So we got the character, permanence and truth, materialization and spiritual. And that last one is actually the person with the mandala is an astrology chart. I wanted to point that out. That's kind of an archetype of that person looking at an astrology chart.
Yeah, and this permanence and truth, I was just reviewing my notes, and the Hydra represented desire of universal desire rather than universal love. That's always the divine is love, and so that's a matter of our attachments and what we are building ourselves with. But shall we? Okay, yes. We always give a note to bring up the facts of what our panelists are doing. And again, these are the sites for the three. And Liz, you have a YouTube channel.
I do. And Justin and I do the full moon astrology forecast. And we started a Chiron asteroid series. And then I have the Astrology Star Sisters. And I have 4 upcoming episodes.
Super. And you can find that on youtube.com at Elizabeth Liz Muschett or on her website. It all goes there. And Justin.
You can find a lot of my stuff on Instagram and on my YouTube channel. And besides doing this with you all, both you, Sue and Liz, and I do a couple of things. Of course, Liz has already pointed out. I also do a relationship podcast with Michael Bartlett out of New Mexico.
Yes, and that's quite exciting. It's also at YouTube at The Relationship Guys.
Yep.
So, and here you can find Liz and myself. I'm once a month She has a series of other great ladies of sisters, and I have videos featuring Sue Rose Minahan at my Talk Cosmos. And the next one will be about the moon and dwarf planet series. And just to bring attention, I have two. Astro Jam is going to be next week, and then we're beginning a new series that came out of the Chiron conjunct North Node, and it'll be 24 U.S. elections, and it's going to cover the Republican convention, our thoughts about it, the Democratic one before the elections and after the elections. So stay tuned.
And part of that was also the Chiron return too.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Return.
Yeah. The Chiron return. So that'll be on the 21st of July. So it's the 7th of July and the 21st of July. And if you sign up, of course, if you sign up here, and I thank all the people that do, you'll find out about these. And of course, I mentioned too about both Justin and Liz's activities. And what is happening? We have 14 degrees, 23 degrees, Cancer new moon. It's on the 5th of July, and the universal time in London, which is British summertime at this moment, happens to be almost near midnight at 11:57 p.m. So you can check your own and find out here in Washington, D.C. for this country and Canada. It would be at 6:57 p.m. in the evening. And there's a few observations about it. We have out-of-bound planets, and it's a bowl pattern. Bowl is where it's half the hemisphere. And so you're feeling something is missing. Pluto is the lead with Mercury at the end. And so those are dominant in how we're going to find rebalance. It's going to be back to everything we were saying about the Sabians, a lot of transition, because transmutation is Pluto's name of the game, and Mercury is thinking about this and that and change itself. It all relates back. Let's talk about those out-of-bound planets.
Well, the moon's out of balance or out of bounds for about 4 days this time on this moon, and on the new and full moons, the moon's out of bounds pretty consistently for a while. And the dwarf planet Ceres is out of bounds in the asteroid Pallas Athena. And so everything's trying to find balance again. And, with the chart as a bowl shape, we're trying to find the balance. So, and it's at a new moon. So, maybe take a few minutes and see, what could you possibly release that you don't like or don't want? And, to leave space to open up something new, whether it's just to have 10 minutes to yourself or do some self-care or go for a walk.
It is choosing what attachments to let go of. So much can be so near and dear, yet something to change. And it's a process.
Can I say
I always
one
have
thing?
to remember. Yeah, indeed. But moon is process.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention one thing about the bowl chart pattern. It also represents a particular strong focus or mission or reason, because everything's so focused in one area. And people ask me, I actually was talking to somebody this morning who has a bowl pattern. And I was like, yep, you're here with a really singular focus. And I think this is what this moon is speaking to with the bowl pattern.
Well, then there's hope yet. So we have, this is more the soft, as we call it, or the flowing constructively. By constructive, I mean, it flows. Some of them are harmonious. That's the goal anyway. And there is a water trine, so it's quite emotional. What it is, and if you can see that color-coded is the deep blue is the trines, the lighter blue are the sextiles, the red, of course, are oppositions that are useful in this, nevertheless. And the purple is a sextile, but it got kind of muddled, so that's that definition.
Right, with the water trine, we have the sun and moon with a loose conjunction to Venus, then trine to Pallas Athena, and then trine to Saturn. So those planets are all communicating with each other and, working on getting things to flow. But also with that flow, you can also get stuck because you're just flowing all the time.
Yeah, it can be a round circle of emotion, thinking, how am I safe? How am I protecting? How am I being creative? Along with Saturn, of course, which is the antithesis. It's saying, let's restrict, let's refine, let's put that down in a box. And Nessus is coming along. I think Justin can speak of this, about things ending, cutting off that aren't working. It's intense because
Right.
Palace wants you to strategize. It's a lot. It's quite involved.
Well, and that combination, Saturn and Nessus are actually the same degree right now, and Nessus being one of the three centaurs, like Pholus and Chiron, but Nessus represents some level of connectivity that we have to work through some difficult issues with connectivity with others. I'll just put it in a nice way like that. And the fact that Saturn is with Nessus there, this could be the time where, because this is about emotions, where we might think about setting some boundaries here and where the boundaries are emotionally with others, with our particular communications at work and family, because that Saturn and Nessus combination is asking us to look at boundaries and how are we relying on somebody maybe too much or not enough? Or are we nurturing somebody? Where are the emotional boundaries?
That is so strong because when I think of the sun, moon, and Venus in Cancer, it's all our values that help us protect, that keep us safe. Yeah, onward. So
Well,
that
and then go ahead.
I was
The
going to
gift,
say the mystic rectangle. All right, go ahead.
yeah, that's where the gift comes in, is from that tight mystical rectangle, and that's with Juno and Pallas and Saturn and Nessus and Mars, right? Yeah. Yeah, so
Yep.
it's like a gift comes from the mystical rectangle. So, a couple of those points were in the grand water train and trine, and so then we have the mystical rectangle. And I always think that that brings a gift of some sorts. And
Yep.
since Nessus and Saturn, it's like maybe having better boundaries of what you'll do or what you'll accept will help bring that gift forward. So
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. Let's see what the next, because they tie together. Here we have the action-oriented squares. That's really what squares are. It's all about a drive to assert and action. So it may work, it may not work. It depends who you're actioning against, if that's a word. So there's two T-squares. That's where one point is working with two other ends. And we have and a cardinal. I am driven to that cardinal with Ceres opposite the moon, sun, and with the nodes. How strong is that? That just seems like we're taking whatever has been grief to us and trying to nurture that part of ourselves. It seems that it's another layer that's deeply, it's like drilling down, really putting that water nurturing into it.
Right.
well,
And
and
I
with
might
those
go ahead, Liz. Go ahead,
with
Liz.
the T squares and the grand cardinal cross, to me this is like a call to action. What action will we need to take? But I think that we also have to be, conscious to make sure we take the right action also. Because a cardinal cross is 4 points and the T squares are 3. So it's like, I think there's some contemplation with which action will take place, because it's like we're almost being pulled in all these different directions, or we have all this information. And like we could say, what's the solution for homelessness? Well, there's many solutions, because there's many reasons why people are homeless, so there's not just one solution for all of it.
Right. And to your point there about some contemplation, I like back to what I was talking about before about boundaries and emotions and relationships with Saturn and Nessus there, that it's opposite, it's part of that T square, and it's opposing Juno, which is about relationships, and Virgo. And then so that's the discernment and relationship. And if we look to where it's actually connecting with the ascendant, if we think back to the what we were looking at, the Sabian symbols with the ascendant, we could say, oh, here's what the concepts were with that ascendant of how we can use that discernment and set boundaries. And if you remember, we were talking about with that ascendant is about adaptability and relying on some innate skills and being able to be open to change here. So.
That second fixed T square is a little more abstract in one way. Hamea is the dwarf planet of rebirth and create birth itself. Pluto, of course, is transformation. We're familiar with Pluto. And Hygeia is an asteroid that has everything to do with our health. And she's right at the very end, tail end of Aries. But I find that health seems to be an issue progressively for myself in many different ways of really taking the bull by the horns or whatever to work with. And I imagine for all of us, it's a real, and you could say health in so many ways. Either your physical health, depending on where it is, your some kind of something that makes you grow so that we can nurture ourselves.
Yep.
Right, with the Mayan Pluto, about the birth and rebirth, both of them. And then with health, it's like I would say that there's, changes to be made around taking care of ourselves and our health.
Yeah. Like I actually stopped coffee because coffee is supposed to drive up your insulin. So I'm beyond mourning. I just, I shall do this. At any rate. Okay. We have, this is kind of a part of the synopsis, but the finger of God, which is a quincunx that they call it an adjustment. There's two planets, energies that correlate, they connect, they're together, but there's this third part that's going, I don't know if we're working together. And that happens to be Ceres. Ceres is not, we're working on how we're going to nurture ourselves between our head and our home hearth ideas and our philosophical, adventurous mind ideas. Maybe however that's happening, maybe getting distracted by all that. I don't know. But there's also this point of Thales, that's with the red line, and it includes our past and our present, which are always the nodes with Jupiter again. So it seems like Jupiter is really, our belief systems need to get in connection with how we're nurturing ourselves.
Well, and Jupiter seems very like it's informing. It's like, yes, we need to look at the past and what we want to do for the future, but that Jupiter feels like it's very strong and will help make the choices and the decision. What's best for the collective, what's best for the whole.
Yeah, that's a good point, because Thales, it is a very constructive, strategic energy, essentially. So it's helping with that yod, which is is something we need to improve on, is how are we improving on how we truly nurture ourselves.
And I might point out, Jupiter was the ruling planet in that nakshatra.
Yes. And also the rules the ascendant. Yes, Jupiter, Zeus.
Yeah, so important quality at this point, informing, helping.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to kind of tie up some thoughts, I was looking at what is the sun and moon doing? Well, the sun and moon are actually, because it is the new moon, involved with so many of these that we've already talked about. But, it is in opposition. It's looking at how can it exist and nurture. What's the new story to tell, perhaps, that nurtures us? But then it's strategically working, and it's trying in that process with Saturn trying to consolidate it. That's one idea.
Yeah, when you think about Ceres, you would kind of think about Cancer, because there's a nurturing aspect to Ceres, and the fact that in this chart it's a opposite of Cancer, and it's next to the other centaur Pholus, which is about sudden change and it's basically change. And so we see here that, I think you point out something very dynamic here that's really important. Ceres with Pholus opposing the moon, and that Capricorn Cancer, opposition there, that I think we have to change of how we are dealing with Ceres in order to accomplish.
Yeah.
I think we're looking for a new beginning here with the Cancerian moon, a new beginning to how we deal with Ceres concepts in the collective.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up with Pholus, because I kept looking and thinking it's not too far away, because Pholus really is the one that resets the ending and beginning of our healing.
Yeah, so there's something about Ceres that, to your point, is being reset right now with the new moon.
Yeah. The one on the right side, the screen, I realized, my goodness, that the sun and the moon are actually relating to many of these dynamics that we've already talked about. This, the grand cross, the water cross, where it's, and also the mystic, because there's a mini trine and a grand trine. It's a sextile, and those two blue lines are forming the mystic triangle. So the sun and moon are really, we're needing to integrate all this. Liz, do you have thoughts?
And I find it very interesting that the sun and moon are aspecting most of the planets, but it's really interesting that it's not aspecting the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and Chiron. So it's, more of the personal planets and the asteroids. So that's kind of a telltale too of it's a lot of an inner process or a personal process happening, even though that we know that there's a great amount of change going on in the collective, but there's still it's a huge one around personal and nurturing ourselves and our families and our communities, I would say.
Beautiful. Well, I'm happy. Unless you had, I think we can take this slides away. We have a couple, there's always a YouTube. I would just like to chat here for a brief second before we hang away, but we're with a new cycle of the sun in the heat of the day, lowering light. I don't know. I'm just talking. Go ahead. What's on your thoughts?
Well, and with new moons, it's a good time to, write down some of your desires and wishes. And it could be, it could be very, very simple, or it can be very detailed. And we're at a cardinal time of the year. So to me, that's always about initiating things. So, and
well, what are you initiating? What are you doing? Let's get personal here. We always tell people, and that's a good reminder. I know what I'm doing is changing some of my dietary stuff because I've got cholesterol, not to get too personal, but and I guess that's the name of the way.
That's cancer, digestion.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Plus I'm getting a new printer because my printer conked out. It's like my world is like reboot. What about you?
I've been cleaning out my house and my mother's storage units in her house, getting ready for a
mother childhood.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've been working on I've changed my eating habits greatly.
It is exciting to take over new consciousness when it comes to all of that. I mean, and besides the fact that sometimes our desire is because of a lack of a certain nutrition. And when I realized that, it was like, okay, eat that carrot. And I know, Justin, you've been traveling a lot. That has a lot to do with the 5.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I take away from this is that when we start new projects or we take action and start new things, a lot of times we just kind of brush over of how we need to do those things to keep that growth going, right? The project. I mean, that's one part of project is like, okay, how do we continue with the sustainability here and nurture something? Right. A lot of times we just want to get to the goal in the end. We forget about, we need to water that plant every once in a while. And so maybe this is a good time a little bit with the Cancer moon to look at our projects, to look at what we're doing in our life and say, well, maybe I'm going to focus on what steps do I need to do to nurture this a little bit more. Nurturing things in our lives, whether it's a relationship or a project. And so I think that's what I take away from this is more about the care and nurturing in the materialization process or manifestation process.
Well, that works with materialization of spirituality.
Yeah.
Brings it home. Thank you both.
Oh, you're welcome, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah, everybody, enjoy Talk Cosmos, enjoy my friends' YouTubes, and sign up. We'll keep in touch. Have a good summer. Okay.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.